In the early morning haze of the Tang Dynasty, as the gates of Chang'an creaked open to the Silk Road beyond, a lone figure stepped into the unknown. He wore no armor, carried no sword, only the simple robes of a Buddhist monk and a determination sharper than steel. His name was Xuanzang. He was not fleeing. He was seeking, not gold nor conquest, but truth. His journey would last 17 years, span 10,000 miles, and cross some of the most treacherous terrain on Earth. He would defy imperial law, survive deserts and mountains, and walk into the heart of India, the birthplace of the Buddha, to collect the Dharma at its source. And when he returned, he would not just reshape Chinese Buddhism, he would become immortal. This is the true story behind one of the greatest pilgrimages in human history, the monk who walked to India. To understand the fire that burned in Xuanzang, we must first see the world he was born into. The year was around 602 CE. China was rising once more under the Tang Dynasty, a golden age of trade, learning, and cultural exchange. The capital, Chang'an, was a vast cosmopolis where Persian merchants brushed shoulders with Indian monks and foreign tongues echoed through Buddhist monasteries. But beneath this brilliance lay confusion. Buddhism, imported from India centuries earlier, had flourished, but unevenly. Dozens of schools jostled for dominance. Their scriptures were inconsistent, often mistranslated, and sometimes fabricated entirely. The teachings of the Buddha had been filtered through too many lenses: political, linguistic, even superstitious. Xuanzang, born into a family of Confucian scholars in Henan, was brilliant and restless. As a young monk, he sensed that something was wrong. The Dharma in China felt incomplete, fragmented. He longed to see the original texts, to hear the teachings in the Buddha's own tongue, to understand not just the words, but their essence. But there was a problem. The Tang court, wary of foreign entanglements, had banned unauthorized travel beyond China's borders. Any monk who left risked arrest or death. Xuanzang did not flinch. In the silence of night, he slipped through the city gates and vanished into the west. What drove him into exile? What script could possibly be worth that risk? Scroll further. The path ahead was not a road. It was a crucible. Xuanzang crossed the Hexi corridor, threading between Tang military outposts and Silk Road caravanserais. He faced scorching sandstorms in the Gobi desert, the bone-deep chill of Central Asian nights, and the constant threat of capture. He carried forged documents, but even forgery couldn't shield him from hunger, frostbite, or the silence of exile. At last, he reached Gaochang, an oasis kingdom near today's Turpan. Its ruler, King Ku Wentai, was a devout Buddhist. He could have turned Xuanzang in. Instead, he offered supplies, escorts, and a desperate plea. Stay. Teach here. But Xuanzang refused. His mission was not comfort. It was clarity. He pressed on, into the Taklamakan desert, where even camels feared to tread. He traveled by moonlight to escape the blistering heat. He crossed the Tian Shan mountains and braved the snow-choked passes of the Pamirs. Along the way, he passed through ancient kingdoms like Khotan and Samarkand, jewels of cultural fusion, where Zoroastrian fire altars flickered beside Buddhist stupas. He recorded everything: landscapes, customs, doctrines. He was no mere pilgrim. He was a scholar mapping the soul of the Silk Road. They say the Taklamakan swallows whole what it cannot kill. Xuanzang would answer that silence with footsteps. And finally, in 630 CE, after 3 years of hardship, Xuanzang arrived at the cradle of Buddhism, India. India welcomed him like a long-lost heir. At the court of King Harsha, who ruled much of northern India, Xuanzang was honored as a guest of state. The king called him Mokshadeva, Lord of Liberation. But Xuanzang had not come for titles. He had come for Nālandā. Nālandā was not merely a monastery. It was a university of cosmic ambition. Its walls housed over 10,000 monks, scholars, and students. Its libraries overflowed with the wisdom of centuries. Here, doctrines were not just recited, they were tested, debated, lived. Xuanzang stayed for years, studying under the legendary master Shlabhadra. He immersed himself in the Yogacara school, the consciousness-only vision of reality, alongside the middle way of Nagarjuna and the intricate metaphysics of the Abhidharma. He debated in Sanskrit. Xuanzang was not importing relics, he was transplanting memory. Each scroll, each statue, each blueprint was a seed for a future China. But his journey did not end at Nālandā. He traveled to the sacred sites of the Buddha's life: Lumbini, Bodh Gaya, Sarnath, Kushinagar. He saw the tree where enlightenment bloomed, the field where the first sermon turned the wheel of Dharma, the stupa where silence marked the Buddha's final breath. Yet even as he walked among the ruins of enlightenment, he saw something else: decline. Hinduism was resurging. Buddhism, though still vibrant, had begun to fade in some regions. Monasteries stood empty. Dharma halls echoed with the past. Xuanzang knew the time to preserve was now. In 643 CE, after nearly 15 years abroad, Xuanzang began the long road home. But this time, he did not travel in secret. King Harsha provided him with a grand escort: monks, translators, guards. Hundreds of texts, statues, and sacred artifacts traveled with him in ox-drawn carts. Where once he had slipped through borders like a fugitive, now he crossed them like a sage. When he reached the Yumen Pass and re-entered China in 645 CE, word of his return raced ahead of him. Emperor Taizong himself summoned Xuanzang to court. The emperor, a brilliant statesman but a skeptic of Buddhism, was captivated. He questioned Xuanzang for days, recording his answers in the official chronicles. Where others saw a monk, Taizong saw a living bridge between civilizations. He offered Xuanzang high office. The monk declined. He offered Xuanzang leadership over the entire Buddhist clergy of China. Instead, Xuanzang asked for only one thing: a place to translate. In the city of Chang'an, the great wild goose pagoda rose from the earth, a beacon of stone built to house a library of enlightenment. Here, Xuanzang established a translation bureau. For the next 19 years, he worked without rest, translating over 1,300 scrolls, including the Heart Sutra, the Diamond Sutra, and the monumental Yogacarabhumi Shastra. He did not merely translate words, he transmitted meaning. Where earlier translators had used vague equivalents, Xuanzang preserved technical terms in Sanskrit. Where syntax clashed, he forged new grammatical pathways. His translations were not diluted, they were distilled. More than that, he taught. A generation of monks and scholars gathered around him, absorbing both the texts and the method behind them. His work gave rise to the Faxiang school, the Chinese expression of Yogacara thought, and brought coherence to the fragmented landscape of Chinese Buddhism. In 664 CE, at the age of 62, Xuanzang died, but his voice had already become scripture. Xuanzang's journey was never about one man. It was about a thread of wisdom stretched between worlds. In India, he is remembered as a guardian who came from the East to rescue the teachings as they flickered. In China, he is revered as a sage who brought the Dharma home, not by conquest, but by compassion, clarity, and endless labor. His writings influenced not only scholars, but artists and storytellers. His pilgrimage inspired the great Ming-era novel Journey to the West, where he appears as the monk Tripitaka, journeying with a monkey king, a pig spirit, and a river demon through a mythic landscape of trials and temptations. But behind the fantasy lies a deeper truth. There really was a monk who walked through deserts and empires, who defied the law for the sake of truth, who brought back no treasure, but left behind a legacy that outshone empires. In his hands, the Dharma crossed mountains. In his voice, it crossed language. And in his life, it crossed time. He did not seek glory, he sought the way, and in seeking it, he became part of it. But not all wisdom comes from beyond the borders. Some truths begin at home, in ritual, in reverence, in harmony. Before China turned west to seek answers, one man shaped the way within. Why family, ceremony, and virtue were once the pillars of the world. Scroll forward. The sage is waiting.